think with eating disorders, people think it's this aspiration to be skinny.
And there's definitely not one look that defines having an eating disorder.
It's not, restricted by gender, race, class.
The reality is that eating disorders are very complex and they're mental illnesses.
Eating disorders go far beyond someone's actual body and they go far beyond food.
I look at them as a source of control when your life is kind of spiraling out of control.
I definitely believe that an eating disorder is like having a friend in your brain. And you kind of start off with this friend thinking that she has your best interest in mind. And as you spend more time with this friend, you notice your life getting smaller and smaller, and you notice her getting meaner and her demands getting harder, yet you're trapped with her.
Starting in my teens.
The age of, I want to say around 15, I remember specifically dealing with this maybe like my sophomore year of high school.
I first remember struggling with body image when I was about 8 years old.
When I was about 12, I definitely was more in tune with other people's bodies.
I definitely had anorexia, although I didn't know that I did.
It very much was a sense of control when I had none. The way that I was coping with it was to eat less, to kind of just disappear in a sense.
In my case, my body physically changed. People started complimenting me on it. In a healthy mind, you hear those comments, you'd think, oh, there's a problem. And I was so sick that hearing people kind of recognize my sickness felt really good.
Having obsessive compulsive disorder, but also like living in the kind of household where conversations about mental health were really taboo. Feeling like I couldn't really open up about what I was struggling with. In some ways, I felt like I didn't really have a choice but to numb out. Beyond just being like queer and transgender, I think being a kid who ended up having mental illness, a lot of things that I think most parents, even supportive parents, aren't prepared for, I think really threw them for a loop. I internalized this idea that everything that made me different from my family made me a problem. A lot of how I coped with that was to just repress and ultimately try to conceal who I was.
I think just being a Black woman, you kind of move through the world a little bit differently. When it comes to body awareness, I think as a very young child, I kind of recognized that my body and the way that people viewed me was going to be very different. Most of the time it was people saying you're getting curves now, you need to make sure you portray yourself a certain way or else people are going to look at you differently. I think because of that, I wanted to take control of myself. And instead of finding positive ways to do that, I kind of self-harmed as a way to shrink myself, make myself literally physically smaller in order to not take as much space so that I wouldn't be viewed in that way.
I got even more serious about dance when I was a junior in high school. So when I was 16, 17, I didn't see anyone who looked like me in dance magazines and dance companies. I felt that if I wanted to have a chance at a career, that I had no choice but to change my body. It was about a lot deeper things, like my trauma history and anxiety and depression and a perfectionistic personality and things like that. But dance really was a big part of it and really did add to that.
I think a lot of people think it's you're all of a sudden recovered, but a lot of ups and downs where I was okay, I'm doing good this day, and then the next day I might not feel so great. You just make sure that you're at least trying and, getting the support that you need.
I had this idea in my mind that I would know if I needed help. But what I've realized with time is that oftentimes it requires an intervention from people around you. And a lot of times it's been me catching up and only in hindsight realizing, okay, that actually was really scary.
I think we always let it get to the worst point before people turn a corner. But I think noticing these things and saying, I'm struggling, and asking for help from someone that you trust
while it's, sometimes viewed that asking for help is a sign of weakness, it's really the opposite of that. Asking for help is a huge sign of strength.
Looking back, I see myself and wish I could shake myself and say, can't you see something's wrong? But you can't. It's not your fault if you have a sticky relationship with food or exercise. You didn't do anything wrong. You deserve support. You deserve to get better.